There's nothing worse than talking about yourself, in my opinion. So this is a little awkward for me, but Tom said to get up here and just tell your life story. So I will tell you, first of all, that I am the luckiest. No, I got it. I've done this a few times. I am the luckiest and the most blessed guy I've ever met. And I don't know why, because I certainly don't deserve it. But here's my life story, for whatever it's worth, for anybody who gives a crap about it. But I grew up in a small town in western Oklahoma, working on a farm, driving tractors, combines, trucks, listening to radio 10, 12 hours a day, wanting to be in music. I was a hybrid. I was a football player and one of those guys who was in the jazz band at the same time. I didn't fit into either one of them, really, but I was struggling on what to do. And one fateful day at a recruiting game, and I was recruited by the University of Oklahoma. I went to this game, and I was sitting there next to this guy who was like 6'8". And I looked up and I said, "What position do you play?" And he said, "Tight end, defensive end." And I said, "Ooh, that's music." So I went back to my coach and I said, "I think I've made my decision. Screw this football. I'm going to music." So I went to Oklahoma State University, and by lucky, a couple of days before I was enrolled in class, I went with a friend of mine while he enrolled in forestry. And I was sitting there, and a guy was sitting down beside me, a stranger. I said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to make music." He goes, "What does that mean?" And I said, "I really don't know. I just want to make records." And this is before cell phones. He gets up and he walks away, and he comes back with a piece of paper, and he says, "Call this number. I think I have a job for you in a recording studio." And lo and behold, it was a studio. It was a 2-track. That was 2 more tracks than I'd ever dealt with, so it was a really good deal for me. So I started working there and started writing songs with a friend of mine named Tim Dubois. And we came to, I actually graduated, moved to Nashville, and to make a long story short, I met a friend of mine who was also an Oklahoma State graduate who said, "Come hang out in the studio while we record all these incredible records." Merle Haggard, Hank Jr., a lot of these iconic records. I every single day after my regular day gig job, I hung out until the doors closed. For 9 months, I worked for free. And they hired me on after this engineer left to go to another studio, and I started engineering and started mixing projects. People liked it, people hired me, and I started mixing a lot of big projects. About 1984, Tim was writing songs and said, let's record some stuff on these guys who play on my demo and see if we can get a record deal. We did that, and we did it on the weekends, thinking that nobody's going to like this. It's way too progressive, and we got a deal at RCA. We didn't even have a name for the band. And lo and behold, they became Restless Heart, and our first record went to #1 and so forth. So after that, 5 years after that, Tim ran Arista Records, asked me to produce Alan Jackson, this new artist he'd signed, so I started producing Alan. And I did Alan's first 2 albums and a #1 song off his 3rd album, at which point I was working with Ronnie Dunn and brought Ronnie to the table to Tim and said, "Please sign Ronnie." Tim wouldn't sign him. Finally, he's had a duo and said, "All right, I'll put him in this duo," and that was Brooks and Dunn. At the same time, I was producing a guy named John Michael Montgomery, which we had a few hits on him. And then I met this girl at Warner Brothers that they asked me to produce, and I turned her down. I said, "No, I don't hear it." And a few months later, I heard it, and I thought, you know what, I missed that. So I went back and said, I screwed up. I missed that. So I started producing Faith Hill. And about that time, Capitol Records asked me to become president and CEO of Capitol Records following Jimmy Bowen, where Garth was king. And so I said no to start with. So long story short, because I was having a lot of fun producing records. Ended up taking that gig because they made it worthwhile. And it was at this moment I was engaged to Faith, but that didn't work out because she was on another label. I was running a label, another label, and it was just a nightmare. So I was head of A&R and president. A whole nother world, crazy part of my time in my life. Just stressed like I've never felt in my life. But I ended up signing Keith Urban from there. I signed Trace Atkins from there. I was there 2.5 years, and Garth said, "I want my guy to run my label." And I said, okay, I'll go run Virgin. So they asked me if I'd run Virgin Nashville. I said, yeah, I'll do that. So I signed Chris Cagle there, was there like 2 years. And they said, you know what, we got too many labels. We're going to shutter him and just do one label. Garth was still at Capitol, and he and I did not get along, still don't. And so I became an independent. I started just producing whatever, and producing some Trace records. I produced one with Trey Bruce, who I saw in here. And about 2000, I'm terrible with time frame, 2007, I got a call from the then president of Warner Brothers that asked me if I would come head up their A&R department. And I said, well, sure, why not? And that's been incredible, because being president is one thing, being head of A&R is a lot more fun, let me just tell you. So I started doing that, and they said, one of the things we want you to do is fix Blake Shelton. He's either up or down, up or down. And so I started producing Blake and started signing artists. I signed Hunter Hayes tried to sign him when he was 15. Now I got him signed when he was 17. And we've had a really good run at Warner Brothers since I've been there. With just a lot of great people around me that's made me look a whole lot better than I deserve. They take these records and promote them to radio, which is far harder than anything I do. And get them out there where people know these artists and get to, and we've broken a lot of new artists through that. Brett Eldridge, Frankie Ballard, a brand new guy who's sitting at number 4 right this week, his first single named Michael Ray. And it's been an incredible ride. I'm just crazy blessed. I feel guilty about 99.9% of the time. And that's my life up until this moment. It's a weird life because I have 2 jobs. I'm the head of A&R, which is a very full-time job. And then producing records is another full-time job. I mean, really full-time job. And they coexist at the same time, and my wife's been trying to get a date with me for years. There's little to zero time in my life, but it's a great time in my life, and I'm not complaining. So with that, I've got 2 minutes and 33 seconds to answer any questions anybody wants to ask. Am I done? Go ahead.
What did you catch the second time around with Faye?
What did I catch?
I had it turned on. Is it off?
Oh, my beautiful wife, Terry. Been married a lot of years. We have a 17 and a 15-year-old daughter, so yeah.
I'll echo that. She is smoking hot, Scott.
Yeah, thank you. Well,
Hey, I've got a microphone for the audience. Who needs it? Who's got a question for Scott? Raise your hand or shout it out. All right, it's going to be hard for me to get to you. You're going to have to yell. Here you go.
Cool. Hey, what's up? So I have kind of like a total noob question. I'm kind of new in town. For a person who doesn't have any experience in the music industry but has a business background and really cares a lot about music, how could someone like that break into doing like A&R or management or something like that?
You probably would be better breaking into management or marketing than A&R. A&R is such a bizarre field. There's no way to quantify it. There's no way to know if you're any good at it until you sign somebody or sign somebody that doesn't work. But business, there's always a need for business. There's financial aspects of every record company. If you've got a creative mind in marketing, there's always that. Sure.
Hey Scott, if you had to sort of define A&R, what do you spend your day in the A&R world doing?
A&R is really quickly simple. It's an old term that stands for artist and repertoire, which is out of date. But we look for new acts. I get thousands of acts per year pitched to us, thousands. I tell people my job is to say no every day, many, many times. So we hear lots and lots of new acts. I had a 10-year-old girl in my office today that blew me away, 10 years old. There's that, and then when we have artists like Hunter Hayes, we find songs for Hunter. I help develop his records and pick the singles and help with the marketing plan. It's a pretty encompassing job.
I have a question. So I was
That's correct.
Okay, now, is that, are you guys, do you feel like that may be a new format? What results have you been getting of it?
He asked the question about Hunter Hayes' new strategy of not downloading songs but streaming them only. And it's an experiment on our behalf, and it is a grand experiment. I can't tell you the results of that experiment yet, but he's getting a gazillion streams. His streams are off the charts worldwide. You know, what does it mean for us? It's an experiment. We don't know where we're going to go with it next. We talk about that on a daily basis. Out of time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Scott.